JJ Spirit NYC. Hey everybody, what's going on? I just wanted to do a different video for today, and as you can see from the title screen, my love of basketball. What can I say about this sport, this beautiful sport that was introduced to me during the '90s, and what developed into a passion throughout the 2000s as I was figuring out my way in life, as a teen to a young adult. I was introduced to basketball like any kid in the early, in the 90s. I was in probably like 6, 7, but, I didn't play sports as a kid or anything. It wasn't until I started playing at the schoolyard and, at parks and stuff like that. And we would play with the local kids and just start playing the game. Someone would just pick up games, and it was just a time, and I realized back then that looking back on it, basketball was definitely an escape. It was something I did to cope, with different issues I was going through in my life. But it was something that, there was a few things that was happening at the same time around that kind of like fed my love of the game, that kind of encouraged my love for the game. So I'm playing basketball. I have an outlet now to vent my frustrations. And now, I'm in high school, it's like 11th grade. Eventually, in 11th grade, during lunch period, some of the guys would go to this pizzeria called Di Natale's. This was in Bayshore, Long Island, Suffolk County. If you know, you know. It was definitely a vibe. They would have the ESPN highlights, the top 10 highlights, which was like the staple of the program for a while, and they would show the top 10 highlights throughout the day. And me and my friends would just be wilding out. It was a vibe. Like, we'd see like all the highlights of the top plays, and it was just such a vibe. Such a time to be alive. And so that's feeding my love for the game. So I started watching the sport, and I started watching the games. And I'm a New Yorker, so started watching the Knicks. And during the 2000s, the Knicks sucked. I didn't realize it because I was still learning about the game. But I think around that time I was watching, the Knicks had just acquired Stephon Marbury, Starberry. What a player! I mean, this guy was ahead of his time. I mean, he had an outside shot. He had the mid range. He played great perimeter defense. He was a great passer. He had handles. I mean, the guy literally could do everything. He could do everything as a floor general, special guy, special player, and did even more better in China, which I'm glad he eventually had success out there. And, I just wanted to shout out all my favorite players from those days, the guys that impacted me, even the guys that were quote unquote, not like known names like that, but, Kevin Garnett. I mean, Kevin Garnett, KG, what a player that was ahead of his time. I mean, at that time, a guy to be 6'10", 6'11", and have a mid-range game, be able to handle the basketball, be able to pass the basketball. He basically would act as a point forward. That term wasn't even a thing until like KG and eventually LeBron and all these guys came in, and they had that term point forward. But KG was like the start of that, and he played great defense, great rebounder. Those days in Minnesota, I mean, he was special. I mean, the guy, I think there was one season he was averaging like 26 and like maybe like 13 rebounds a game, just nuts. Timmy, Tim Duncan, Mr. Fundamental. I mean, a lot of people, they didn't like his game because they felt it was boring. The Spurs were boring and all that. But to me, that Spurs Detroit finals in 2005, that was a great series. I loved that series, a great series. The Spurs organization in the 2000s, the pinnacle of basketball success. Just the front office, how they drafted and how, minimal trades, just trying to, develop through the draft and acquiring certain guys that fit what they needed. Bruce Bowen, it was the era of the point guards, that term point guards. They had, Jason Kidd. I mean, Jason Kidd, one of the best point guards of all time. That Nets run he had were legendary. Him, Richard Jefferson, Kenyon Martin, Eventually, Vince Carter. Vince Carter. I mean, the dunk contest of the 2000s. T-Mac. I mean, there was a time where Tracy McGrady was considered Kobe's competition. Like, they were supposed to battle it out for the top player in the league, and there was a legitimate conversation. Like, you really couldn't tell anyone that T-Mac wasn't better than Kobe, until the injuries started happening. But you had even other guys like AI. I mean, Allen Iverson. I mean, Allen Iverson is one of the players that I will always say that he could go 1-on-5 and still make it a nightmare for the defense. And I've never seen a player like that ever again. Like, there's never been another AI that can do what he does. I mean, the closest thing I would say is probably like Kyrie, but AI was just on another level in my opinion. I think Allen Iverson was better than Kyrie Irving, but just a special player, man. And that era, the attitude era, like the baggy jeans and the streetwear and all that. It was just such a vibe. It was just you had the Iversons, Steve Francis, and a name that doesn't get mentioned that much, but he's a great athlete, underrated passer. Those Rocket teams with him and Cuttino Mobley, Paul Pierce. Paul Pierce when he was on the Celtics before KG, before Ray Allen. And it was just him on an island, killing it every night. He was dropping definitely dropping 25 to 30 a game. Paul Pierce, definitely unsung hero of the 2000s. Him and LeBron had some of the most legendary duels in NBA history. Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was special. I mean, one thing with him was, I'll never forget, I think it was the year it was just him, and I think Shaq wasn't in Miami anymore. It was just D Wade and a bunch of other guys. And I think it was 2009, and he averaged like 29 a game and was absolutely killing it. But he didn't get MVP. I felt he deserved MVP that year. Antoine Jameson, Jerry Stackhouse, Devin Harris. There was one year Devin Harris had like an all-star amazing season, and after that he didn't do anything else. But Rondo towards the latter end of the 2000s. There was a debate, him and CP3, who's better. Or the original point guard debate, Darren Williams, CP3, who's better. Andre Kirilenko, Carlos Boozer, Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire. Steve Nash is a great player, phenomenal passer, all-time great passer. Those Phoenix Suns were special. Like, the basketball they play today is definitely it's all the teams today that have like a high potent offense. It definitely started with those Nash teams, those Nash-led teams. And one of my favorite teams in the 2000s, the 2003, 2004 Pistons. That team was so special. That team had one of my favorite players of all time, Chauncey Billups. I mean, Billups, he had a good 5-6 year stretch of his career where he was in the Eastern Conference Finals, and eventually he got traded to the West, and he was in the Western Conference Finals. So he had one of the best stretches for me as a basketball player, NBA player. From the free throw down to the hoop, he was automatic. In crunch time, Mr. Big Shot would hit the big shots from outside. Great defense, underrated passer. Chauncey Billups knew how to control the flow of the game. He knew who to feed it to when they had needed to score. He just was the perfect floor general. One of my favorite players of all time. Definitely, in my opinion, Hall of Famer. I don't care what you guys say. Baron Davis, the moment with him, I always remember the cockback. When he dunked on Andre Kirilenko when he was on the Warriors. The We Believe Warriors, Carlos Arroyo, Body, the 2000s Lakers. I was never big on the Lakers, but, Kobe. I mean, what can I say about Kobe, the legend, in my opinion. Kobe, easily better than LeBron, easily. He had a better career than LeBron. But let me show some love to LeBron. I mean, LeBron, what can I say about LeBron? One of my favorite moments of all time in NBA history was LeBron was leading the charge. I'll never forget the year that LeBron went to the finals the first time, 2007 against the Spurs. The conference finals, to get to the finals, he went against the Pistons. And mind you, this is a Pistons team that was already championship tested. and LeBron just bulldozed his way through that team like it was nothing. And it was the first time I finally saw it. I was like, wow, this is what LeBron is all about. This is what makes LeBron special, and that forever will be one of the all-time great performances I've ever seen in my life. Uh, the fact that another great moment for me that stands out was when I was watching Melo when he first got to the Knicks. I believe it was early. I believe it was maybe 2010. So I'm skipping 2000s a little bit, but I'll never forget when Melo against the Celtics in the, I believe, game 4 or 5 in the playoffs. Melo balled the hell out. He had 45 points and like 20 rebounds. Literally put that team on his back. They lost, but I mean, I don't blame Melo for that. I mean, he had Jared Jeffries to pass to. You know what I mean? But just shout out to all these players. David Lee, Elton Brand. He had that one season where I think the Clippers finally made the playoffs, and it was all gonna be like all sunshine and rainbows, and then nothing ever happened after that. He went to Philly, and then he ended up sucking again. But I just Tony Parker, another point guard that was just a speed demon. Like no one could stop him. He was just so fast. So I just, and one thing about this era in the 2000s was that, I started seeing my dad again. So like, on weekends I would go see him. And now that I had interest in basketball, my dad was into basketball too. So like, we would watch the games together sometimes, and, we'd watch a game, and whoever would be a team down by like 10 points with like 1:30 to go. And like, my dad would be like, queda un montón de tiempo. And, which basically means, there's a lot of time left on the clock. Like, don't think it's over, and I always imagine my dad saying that now when I watch a game today. But, shout out. I just wanted, in conclusion to this video, and forgive me, I know it's long, but, this era of NBA will always be special because it coincided with a time in my life when I was just starting to scratch the surface of who I'd become. And, from a teen into my 20s, and shout out to all the players, man. All the players I mentioned: Ben Wallace, Shaq. All these players I mentioned. These guys shaped my teens, man. Just watching these guys dominate, watching these guys kill it in the league. So shout out to LeBron. LeBron, when you're not in this league anymore and you retire, you will be missed for sure. You are a staple, bro. And but yeah, I love this game, and I love all the memories that this game gave me. All the special moments on the court where I thought I was playing. I try to emulate a lot of these guys. I try to emulate LeBron, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan. Guys I try to polish my game after, model my game after. So, to anyone watching this video, what are your favorite moments in the NBA? I would love to know, and comment down below. Have a good day, guys, and don't forget, you are loved.